on, everybody? You're listening to the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything. I'm your host, Cliff. Today, I have a special guest on with us. I have author, screenwriter, and filmmaker B. Danielle Watkins. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you for being on. I know you got a lot going on and you have a really busy schedule. So I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on the same show. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better time for you to be on. Kind of like I mentioned before the call, I was just thinking about, the topics that we're going to be talking about and, also the work that you do and just the environment that we're in today. This is honestly the perfect time for you to be on the same show and a great time for the same show to start back up. So I'm really excited, and the listeners are in store for a great recording. Before we hop into it, I want to go ahead and shout out, our listeners and our followers on social media. Same show for you guys that follow it religiously has been away for the last couple of weeks, and I just want to just thank everybody that's been continuing to listen and keep up and with the same show or get caught up and been overwhelming with all the support that we've been getting from the international community. I mean, we have listeners now in 23 countries, from South Africa to South Korea, India, Iran, Paraguay in South America, Australia, and the list goes on. So, I just want to say it just does my heart a lot of joy to know that to have a platform that reaches the international community. And I think that alone in itself speaks volume, because one of the things for me is always being able to put content out there that not only speaks to the people in the immediate community, but speaks to people everywhere. So again, thank you guys for listening. Really quick, for those of you that don't follow the same show and that either want to drop me a message or want more information about the guests that come on the same show, be sure to follow us on our social media pages: Instagram, Twitter, at the sane underscore show. That's sane, SANE underscore show. And then Facebook, the same show. So again, go check us out on social media. Keep track of all the upcoming and current episodes. And again, shoot us a message. Tell us what you think about the same show. And want to know more about our guests, definitely drop us a note in the inbox, and we'll definitely reply and answer whatever questions you may have. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. Today we'll be talking about LGBTQ in entertainment. We're also going to talk about keeping an open mind, and then following our discussion, we're going to have an interview with Danielle, so that you guys can get to learn a little bit about her, what she has going on, her work, and all that other great stuff. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with the LGBTQ in entertainment. Like we were kind of talking about prior to the recording, Danielle, I was saying it was perfect time for you to be on the same show, and with the environment, a lot of things have happened within the last few weeks. And I know one of the things that came to mind is, again, it's Pride Month. One of the things that's been big in the news, aside from Pride Month, with things like Arthur, the television show. They aired an episode. I cannot think of the teacher, Mr. Ratburn. He got married, and I don't know if it was in that episode. I don't keep up with the show much anymore, but apparently he came out at some point and he got married, and like they showed the wedding in the episode with his same-sex partner. And I thought that was really interesting. At the same time, I thought that was pretty cool that they went to that level and took that step. And that just made me think about, especially because we're talking about public television as well. It just made me think about, like, wow, like where we are today in the entertainment industry, and the inclusivity of the LGBTQ community. So, and I'm glad I have you on, because you also being a member of that community, I wanted to get your thoughts. So, where, I guess, from your perspective and your experience, where's the LGBTQ community? I guess, what do things look like in entertainment for that community?
For the community as a whole, on a broader scale, it's very good. It's good for the LGBTQ community because now for like you mentioned Arthur, or we go back to Empire earlier this season when Jamal got married,
Right.
and it became this big thing, like the first black gay wedding on network television. But reality is, we don't remember, well, we forget when TV1 aired when Monifa married her wife on R&B Divas years ago. They aired
Hmm.
the entire wedding. So the black LGBTQ community has been seen, but I'm sure that they took TV1 being a smaller network as, yeah, they did it, but Fox is a mainstream network. So we're doing good because we're showing black gays on mainstream television, and it's all good. Publicity is always good. Acknowledgement is always good. We have Pose now, and Pose is they love it. It's a hit television series about the ball scene, the ballroom scene, and this is something that people didn't know about. If you never saw Paris is Burning, or if you never knew what it meant to be a part of a family, a part of a house, the house of extravaganza, the house of these different things, where they came together to create these families and then have these fabulous shows. And now everybody can see it. For especially for gay men. For gay men, right now life is everything. Entertainment wise, that's it. That's everything.
Interesting. So, one of the things I'm thinking about, or I'm seeing, is that the LGBTQ community is being more included, and not in the, I guess in general. 'Cause I don't want to. I'm not saying I don't want to say like they're getting all the leading roles, but you're seeing them more because like one of my favorite shows I just got started or hooked on that's on Hulu, Rosewood,
Hmm.
with starring Morris Chestnut.
Right.
And in the show, his sister is a lesbian and she's engaged to another, or she starts out early in the show, she starts out and she's engaged to another woman. And for me, I don't want to say it was interesting, but it was it was just kind of like wow, like that. I guess how they put it in there, it it didn't like stick out. I guess like it may be because at the same time, me, I guess I accept it, and it's like oh, it's whatever. I see it all the time. It's
Right.
no big deal to me, and it isn't like it's something that they try to, I guess, push on people that watch the show. Because honestly, when I think about it, when I watch them in that show, like the actors, I'm like, wow, they do a great job, regardless of their sexual preference.
Right.
Like they're just doing a great job overall. Like especially when they are talking about the relationship, because when you look at the dynamic of their relationship, it's just like any other relationship, whether it's homosexual or heterosexual relationship. It's a good love story, to be honest.
And that's
So
the
go,
biggest thing though, because normalcy is what we want, right? So
right,
we want people to be able to see what we're doing, see us on screen, and not see that gay couple, and just
right,
a couple, and
hmm,
not see that gay wedding. It was just a wedding, and
right,
to see love, and it for a while it was it was very almost like black exploitation. It was just have the gay character and be extra gay, and that's it. And
hmm,
now becoming more of a day-to-day life because even Blackish, Raven Simone plays Anthony Anderson's sister, and she's lesbian. And they had that episode where the mom wasn't sure what to do, wasn't sure how to react, and it was able. But obviously, with Blackish being comedy, it was okay. It's funny, but this is the reality of the black family introducing the gay or queer family member into the product. So it's every show now somewhat has some sort of gay something represented. It's almost like it's an industry standard. Just like for a while, early 70s, late, going into the 80s, they had to have a black character. It might have been an all white show, but we had to
right,
have a black character. There had to be some type of inclusivity because if there wasn't, there was going to be an uproar.
right.
And it's the same exact thing, just different label now.
So, what do you say? to people that have this concern that is being pushed onto them?
Well, for me, what do they say to me when I feel like the straight life is being pushed on me?
Hmm.
That's how I relate to it because it sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous for me to say to someone, "I don't want to see you kiss your husband." Ew, the nerve. That's
It's true.
ridiculous. You love your husband, right? You show affection to your husband. So why do you feel that me showing affection to my wife is being pushed upon you? Just as I don't have to watch you live with your wife, you don't have to watch me live with mine, and vice versa. I feel that it's a mass fear of what they don't understand. They say it's the gay agenda. We're trying, but I hate to keep relating it to race, but it's a parallel thing for me. The reality is, 50 years ago, we were pushing onto the white community to be able to be black and be recognized. We were forcing them to desegregate. We were forcing it on them. And they were just afraid of what that meant. And now in 2019, it's a gay agenda, but when in reality, people just are scared of change and they don't want to see what they don't understand.
I agree. That I do agree with. And, it's just like when I look at politics and, we talk about equal rights, equity and equality. At the end of the day, because I know I every now and then I have political aspirations, and when I think about it, it's for the people at the end of the day.
Right.
Entertainment is for the people. What we see a lot of times on television and in movies is reflective of our current society. And so to see these things, and just like when I was speaking of Rosewood, I saw that couple and I wasn't really phased because that's stuff that I see regularly. And it's not something new, and I'm not one of those people that's like, oh man, I don't want to watch this crap because I don't want to see that. It's like I see it all the time. What difference does it make if I see it on one of my favorite shows now? You know what I
Right.
mean?
People do that though. A lot of people will boycott. People get angry.
Right.
They do. They get very angry and they get very protective. Like, unfortunately, what was it? The Oscars. Was it the Oscars? When Billy Porter wore that gown to the Oscars.
Yeah, that was.
And I saw, and he wore another one last night to the Tonys, but when he wore that gown right after Hector Extravaganza died, and it was a replica of a dress that he wore in a ball, straight black men had a fit. Those of us in the community understood that he was paying homage to somebody in the community. I
Hmm.
saw posts on social media that were disgusting, and they were from people like my frat brothers. People that I admire, strong people that I look up to, and they were like, "Oh my God, we're making it okay for black boys to see this man in a dress," and it was so nasty, and it was such a reality because as a lesbian, I live in a pseudo sense of comfortability because I think I'm accepted, but in reality, when people go home, they don't accept us. And they genuinely see this on television. They genuinely have these feelings. Today, they still, and oh my, it was so disheartening to see how people genuinely felt about this man wearing a dress, not because he had on a dress, because they really didn't understand why he wore it. They had no idea. They had no idea.
I'm not too informed on the situation, but I do remember that, I do remember seeing a lot of chatter around what had happened. And, a lot of times, because again, I'm not too informed on it. And a lot of
Right,
times I take that approach of, look, I don't know what's going on here, so I'm not going to speak on it. I'm
right,
just going to because at the end of the day, it's like you don't know, all right? So
right,
don't say anything because what you and I've had to learn this one the hard way because I offer my 2 cents when it's not wanted or needed. So I I'm just like, look, I'm not gonna say anything because it might come back to me, and last thing I want is to be seen in the negative light because I lacked understanding of something and then I spoke too soon, and
right.
now here I am, I look like a jerk or douche, you know what I mean? So in that situation, I would just say, a lot of those people shouldn't have spoke because they don't know at the end of the day, and they didn't understand, like you said.
And didn't
So
care to. They didn't care to. All they
right,
saw was men in a dress on TV.
exactly. But overall, I got to say I am pleased to see, where things are going, in that the entertainment industry is becoming more inclusive, the LGBTQ community, and because I'll be honest, you asked me maybe 10 years ago, I would have been like, I don't know about all that, but again, with maturity, fortunately, with maturity, because not everybody becomes more mature when they get older, and with more understanding, I've come to be more accepting and say, okay, this is good. This isn't as bad as people make it out to be. You know,
Right.
we we can tolerate and use more of this because honestly, it's what is reflective of our society today. So and it's not a bad thing at all. It's reality, like you said. Honestly, we need more.
Right. Exactly.
So, because at the end of the day, I'm always down for a good story. So we're going to hop right into our next topic, and that's keeping an open mind. You guys heard us. We were talking about LGBTQ and entertainment. So honestly, this topic is really perfect because again, talking about that, essentially we were talking about how people do need to be more open minded and see. I guess from my standpoint, in that, especially in relation to the last topic, people need to see the world for what it actually is.
Right.
And like I mentioned before the recording, I feel that people are so quick to reject something because it's something that they're not used to. And I know for me, I've, just speaking from personal experience, having been in situations where, because I always go back to when I was growing up grade school, right? From K through 12, I attended a magnet program, art school. And I was used to being around people of all different creeds, colors, whatever background. And it was so great too, And I remember my junior year of high school, I transferred to one school, and it was very like I guess like in that at that school, I really felt like what it meant to be a minority,
Mm-hmm.
and especially because we were talking about a school that was in town, a smaller town outside of the city, and I remember I went there and I hated it. I only stayed there for a year, and then I went back to my magnet school where I graduated high school from. Then when I went to school. I'm going to go ahead and say this before because I don't want any backlash, and I'm a full supporter of HBCUs more now than ever. But when I went to college my freshman year, I went to an HBCU, and I'm not saying I didn't feel comfortable, but I just wasn't used. Again, I was the majority, and I just wasn't used to that. So I went to a school where it was a little bit more diverse because my mindset was and still is, for the most part, that in the world that we live in, like you see it, there's everybody. So just want to preface the conversation on this topic. Just
So
with
I think it's interesting because I went to a HBCU,
yeah,
and my mentality clearly is something completely different because it was such a breath of fresh air to
hmm
space because I had been in such diverse situations up until that point.
hmm
So then to go into Winston-Salem State and be surrounded by my culture, and be surrounded by so many people in the South like me, coming from being up north in New York,
hmm
and it was just like, yes, like yes,
yes.
yes, you
But
know,
let me tell you this. And see, I feel like I got us off topic because that's why I said I am more of a supporter of HBCUs now than I was ever before, because that was the one thing I learned of how important it is to us as Black individuals.
Right.
And that, so I just want
Right.
to
Both
put that
lines.
out there.
Both lines.
So yeah, and that, thank goodness, again, and that all comes from keeping an open mind. Like, and I feel that this is going to be a fun conversation right here, because for me, especially being around the kind of people I like to hang around and do the fun things. Because I have friends, like, I'm not the most outgoing person. I will tell you that up front. And I like to surround myself with people that are more outgoing than I am, because they will take the chances, and I can watch them take those chances, and it may not work out, or it may work out for the best, but I can look and say, you know what if I do the same thing? You know what I mean? Or and like, what if? And so it makes me want to go out and try different things, and experience different things.
You know,
And
my
go ahead.
professional, no, I'm sorry. In my professional life, I have to do that.
Right.
I have to be outgoing. I have to go do what others aren't doing. So when it comes to my personal life, I like to just be low key and do what I'm used to, because I have to be so outgoing as a filmmaker when I'm going to these film festivals, and I'm going to these schools, I'm going to these different places, and I have to do what people aren't doing. And I have to be that role model. I have to be that person to take that first step. So then when it comes down to, normal day to day functions, I'm like, no, I want to stay in my bubble. I want to stay in my little corner.
Right.
It keeps me sane. Like, it
Yeah.
keeps me able to remain true to me, because being B. Danielle Watkins is so caricature of me.
Hmm.
That's such a big personality.
Right.
And that open mind thing, it's like half and half. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because, like, B. Danielle does anything. I'll go anywhere. I don't care. I'm by myself. I'll show up. I'll do whatever. But when I'm home and it's, I don't have to be her, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Trap karaoke? No, I'm not going there. Like,
Right.
like stuff like that. But if it was a film trap karaoke, yeah, I'm going, because I'm supposed to be there. You
Right.
know, Open mindedness is such a double edged sword.
That is very true. It's so funny. It's like, and I remember when I first said this, someone gave me some flack about it, because I said, you should expose yourself to the things. And I guess expose was the wrong word for it. But I'm just like, I'm like, what I mean? Like,
Oh,
you
I'm
gotta,
very, yeah.
right,
That,
be open, and especially like when it comes to cultural stuff.
yeah.
Like, I say one of my favorite experiences was when I went to a banquet dinner, and it was actually for the Mayor's International Community Awards, MICA is what we call it. And it's an award ceremony where they recognize, like, the internationals that have started businesses in Charlotte. And I was interning, and we go there, and we're having all kinds of international food that I've never had before. And it was my first time having sushi. And we have knives and forks and everything there, typical setup. But we have chopsticks too, and I'm like, okay. I remember one of my colleagues, who was a international from China. I'm like, dude, like, show me, teach me how to use chopsticks, because I don't feel right, or I'm not going to feel right using a fork to eat my sushi. I do it now when I'm lazy, but I know how to use chopsticks when I want to. So I'm like,
Right.
teach me how to use chopsticks. And, he taught me, and, it's like, it's how you hold it, and, chop, chop, pick it up, and I'm eating, and I'm like, oh man, I learned something new. I learned how to eat with chopsticks. That's so cool. And again, being open-minded and being willing to try new things. And now, because I like going places now and being around people that don't know how to use chopsticks, and I'm going to use my chopsticks today. Eat like, oh, fancy, huh? Yeah. But yeah, like, just with the the little things, the simple things, and being able, because honestly, especially when you're talking about individuals like you and I being in the creative space, it's those small little things to me that makes a big impact, and that might be that spark to the next great idea.
And that's true. Like I'm always so grateful for my parents. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and Buffalo is on the border of Canada. And a
Hmm.
lot of Broadway shows would go to Toronto. Parents would take me to Toronto when I was exposed to theater at such an early age. And in that, I would go to museums and different things like that to experience, the different exhibits and the different things coming from different countries. And they made sure that every time a new exhibit came to the Science Museum, I saw it. Every time a new exhibit came to the art museum, I saw it. And this is my entire childhood up until teenage years. So now, like you said, being a creative, I get to travel. I've been to Paris, I've been to all these different places, and I make sure that every time I go to a new city, I see what museums they have because something about these places has something to offer. One of my best experiences was going to the Underground Railroad Museum in Cincinnati.
Mm.
I was like, they had an actual cell, so they uprooted a jail cell and they reconstructed it and put it in the museum, and it still had the shackles attached to it,
Wow.
and the energy walking into that room. So, in my mind is to have been exposed as a child to what a museum meant and what it held and what it meant to history and what it meant to the culture at that moment, to be able to then go into these different cities and see these things. It's priceless to me. I love going to a new city. I love it. I get so excited when I'm in a new film festival and I'm like, okay, what museums they got there? Because I'm gonna go a day early because I need to see what they have. I need to
Hmm.
experience what it is in this place. I love it. Like that, and that's something that's a requirement now. Like I have to do this. I have to expose myself to what these different cities have to offer. Even small little cities, little towns that people have never even heard of. They have their own museums. They have their own history. You have to expose yourself. You have to teach yourself, because if not, how would you ever learn?
Right. I admire that. I really do. You got me on that one. Especially with the smaller cities and towns, because I will say I feel like a lot of times they're often overlooked, and they have a lot to offer. And I hate to get political, but even with some of these small, as I like to sometimes call hick places, they they have a lot to offer. But if we just take the time, and it's so funny how all this comes together, but we take the time to listen to each other as people, see each other as people and individuals, and what we all have to offer to the world, you'd be amazed by what we could accomplish as a society. Like, so there's so many great things. Like, that's why, even though I grew up in the city, but I've become more fond of everything outside of the city,
Right.
especially nature. So but I'm like you when it comes to food. I'm a foodie, so I like to go everywhere and try everything. So I'll use that as my
But that messed me up though, because I haven't eaten French toast since I came back from Paris, because I had genuine French toast, and it is nothing like this mess we're eating in America, and I refuse to eat it again.
You sound like me and gumbo, because part of my family is from New Orleans, and we pride ourselves on gumbo. And anywhere I go, and anybody that has gumbo, I will try it, and I am a legit critic. So, I actually, and I'm going to move on after this, but when I was in New Jersey a few weeks ago, I went to this place called Delta's in New Brunswick, and anybody, if you get the chance, go up there, check it out. I knew the gumbo was right when they brought the bowl out the kitchen and I smelled it. And I said, I know that's good as gumbo because I can smell all the herbs and spices. I like a KFC commercial. So that kind of stuff. I feel you on that one. I feel you on that one. I won't fault you. That you went to France and had not France and
Right,
had
from
French
right,
toast. It's never the same. after you go to
Yeah.
the place where it originated. So. So I want to ask you a few questions. This is my favorite part always because when I have dope people on, it's always interesting to get to learn a little bit, which usually ends up being a lot. Um, but it's always interesting to learn about my guests and who they are, their journey, and the things that they do. So this is for the listeners that don't know you. My first question to you is what challenges have you faced with your work in general?
Well, I guess I'll start with my first movie, and it sounds bad, but it's reality. My first movie, I cast an all white cast because I was afraid that if they knew I was a black filmmaker, I wouldn't get into film festival. So what I did was I presented the film. My name doesn't necessarily look anything other than it could be either or, right? So if they don't see me and they just see my work and they saw white characters, they would assume that I too was white. And I did that because I paid attention to what was happening around me. And as I was emerging as a filmmaker, I realized that the film festival circuit didn't have people that looked like me in it. And I couldn't understand why. I didn't understand why I didn't see black movies in film festivals. I didn't understand why I didn't see black gay movies in film festivals. I didn't understand why I didn't see black lesbian movies in film festivals. So I said, how do I get my foot in the door to ensure that I can tell the stories I need to tell? I need to tell a different story first, and then I can, show my. And that's what I did. My first movie, Kisses in the Wind, is an all-white cast, and it was in like 6 film festivals, and I was like, yes, finally, I can do
Hmm.
it. I can do what I need to do, and that was my first struggle. Of course, everybody, every struggling artist will say, money is hard, and to make the films we need to make, we need to have money. But reality is, every time I step into a film festival, it's a 97% chance I'm going to be the only black, lesbian, female filmmaker there. My challenge is being more than just the token. You know what I'm saying? My challenge is ensuring that as black lesbian filmmakers that we know this is a place for us. There is a place for us. So I have to keep creating and I keep putting myself in these uncomfortable positions because it ain't always easy to walk into a room full of all white gay men.
Yeah.
It's not easy. And then present a film that you want them to relate to. Because then that turns into a whole nother conversation because now I need to get into these film festivals. And if it's a panel of judges to get you into a film festival and none of them can relate to your film because they don't look like you, how do you get into the film festival?
Right.
And that is something I deal with too. I submit to so many festivals. But the reality of it is the boards aren't looking for my type of film. And then the ones I get into, I go and I sit in these theaters for days on end, and that's legit. Like for 5 days, you watch 100 movies, and maybe 10 of them are lesbian. Out of the 10, I'm the only black one. And this is a common occurrence. This is something that I battle every festival season. In every festival season, my films get blacker and blacker because I have to keep challenging the system and I have to keep challenging myself because if not, then what?
Wow. All
So
right.
deep for you?
Yeah. That was that first question. That's a way to start an interview right there. You kind of touched on it with the challenges that you faced, but I guess I want to focus on you as an individual. What's been your experience as a black woman and member of the LGBTQ community?
I mean, yeah, outside of what I just said, the experience of being the only person in the room and everybody can recognize you. Not because you're famous, but because they know you're the only black filmmaker there, so that movie should had to be yours, right? So,
Yeah.
that's my experience when I'll never forget the first time I went to Paducah to the Cinema Sisters Film Festival and it was the first year of the festival. So it's the first year of the only all lesbian film festival in the entire country, and I was the only black filmmaker in it, right? So I make a documentary about it and all this other stuff. And I remember standing after I did my panel, because you speak about your movie and all of that. And this lady was standing there waiting to talk to me, and I'm smiling like, hey, okay, hello. And she said the very first things out of her mouth to me. Now, mind you, I'm standing in heels and a dress and makeup, and she's like, I didn't know there were black butches. And I was so thrown off. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know if it was going somewhere. I didn't know if she was,
Yeah.
but the more I talked to her, I realized that she didn't know what to say to me. She had no idea because I was intimidating to her. So the first thing out of her mouth was the first thing she could think about, and it had nothing to do with anything I'd ever done. And that's my experience. My experience is a fish out of water, being that uncomfortable position in the same time in a comfortable space because I'm a filmmaker.
Right.
So my experience is this is, hey, I'm gonna stand out, so I might as well be bright about it. Might as well, when you gonna see me, so I might as well be seen then.
Right.
So that's really the mentality I've had to take on as I've been on this journey. Like, what you're walking into, right? Especially on a new film festival, like this is a new one I've never been to. It's like, all right, you know what you're walking into.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ready? All right, let's do it. And then it's always the people that are amazed. Wow, I'm impressed. And I try so hard not to be offended. Like, so are you impressed because it was a good movie? Or are you impressed because I made it? And I always try not to go there. But I have to keep it in the back of my mind, like it could be both. It really could.
Right.
It's my experience is fun. I love it. I love what I do. But it's definitely interesting, to say the least.
And I've only heard a little bit of your story thus far, and I have to say that I'm a bit lost for words at the moment. um, but I'm intrigued by it, and I guess I'm just kind of like, wow, because I never knew, and that's why I asked that question. But at the same time, to hear what your experience has been, and also the challenges that you faced, I'm just like, wow, like it's one of those things where it's like you think you got challenges. Well,
Right.
it's like, especially again, you're black, you're a woman, and you're part of the LGBTQ community. Like that is, I just you're phenomenal. Like really, to be able to jump those hurdles and still continue to push forward and go in a upward trajectory. So let me ask you, when did things start taking off for your career?
It's so hard to ask me that because if you let me tell it, I haven't taken off yet, right? But
Hmm.
but reality is like you have to stop and live in the moment, and I have to realize that like I'm sitting in my office right now, and I have more than 20 film posters around me that I wrote. That's
Ooh.
not something little. Like
No, that's
right? Because I look
solid.
around, I have I'm hanging up my all of my novel covers are up. My press releases from when my novels first came up. Obviously I'm established as a writer, but I still feel like I haven't made it. So when you say when did my career take off, I don't know. I don't know when I got recognizable, but I am. Like there's the saying of lesbian in the community, especially it got really big around 2011, 2012 when the YouTube series started getting real big and the YouTube lesbian series scene blew up with shows like Between Women and Studville TV, and then these women became recognizable to their fans without being from Hollywood. And then they became, then lesbian is just this thing, you're a lesbian. And I said, I am not going to be a lesbian. That is tacky. That's the first thing I said, right? So I'm not going to be a lesbian. And then all of a sudden, people start recognizing. And your work starts, it was one thing when my name was behind things and I was writing films and I was able to matriculate through crowds and they didn't know it was my movie that they loved. So they saw the characters, but they didn't know it was my film. And then I starred in 30/30 and I got recognized for the first time in Walmart and somebody called me by my character name and I kept walking because that's not my name. And somebody's like, Tyler. And I turn around and they're like, it's her. It is her. And I'm like, who? It's like, wait a minute. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And or somebody saw me in a restaurant, one of the vegan restaurants. I had on a Zeta hoodie, hair is a mess, locks ain't done, ain't nan eyelash on, looking a mess. Okay. And the girl left because she didn't know what to say to me. And then she inboxed. And I said, you recognize me? Of course, I have no clue who she was. And she's like, I know you. And she's like, but I couldn't come up to you and speak, so I left. You left the whole restaurant? And it's like, I guess once I became recognizable, so I would say it was at 2017, which really isn't that long ago considering I've been writing since 2011. But I guess, yeah, once my face became attached to the name, because the name had always been recognized, that is when my career really turned and became something bigger than what I am or what I thought it would be.
There we go. That was the answer I was looking for. No, I'm just messing with you. That's great. I always say a great name is the greatest of all the riches right there. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. I admire that. What's next?
Well, what's crazy is, I don't like, just like you said, you don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into religion like completely, but I'm very spiritual. And I have someone who kind of guides me and, tells me different things. And she called me and said, you need to go back to your roots. And I said, my roots of what? What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. You need to get to your roots. And I was like, girl, okay. I have no clue what we're talking about. I'm in the middle of 30/30 season 2, being released. And we're touring right now. And there's so much happening. And I'm like, what are we talking about? But I am actually before I started making movies, I was writing books, and before my first screenplay was ever written, I had already published 3 novels. And I published my 4th novel in the midst of really starting my movie career. And I never finished the series. So I said last year, I was like, oh, I'm going to find a new publisher, and I'm going to republish the series, and I'm going to put it all together. But I never really actively tried to do it. And then I saw on Instagram, I'm not going to say the name because it's nothing about this is getting ready to be positive, but a Black female-owned publisher, and I got so excited because I'm like, that's my tribe, that's it, that's my sign. I need to leave my publisher and go be with these Black women and publish this novel again. And I have my consultation and I send them my information and I do everything, and then they don't want me because it's gay, and they don't want that attached to their brand. And I kind of got disheartened because I was like, we're supposed to, pick each other up. I'm not a gay author. I'm just an author telling the story that happens to be gay. And they didn't want to hear that. So I left it alone. I kind of just was like, well, movies is better for me right now anyway. And I still wasn't feeling fulfilled. So Klexicon came in April. And Klexicon, for people who don't know, is Comic-Con for lesbians, basically. It's this big convention where all these lesbians come and they're dressed up like Xena and Wonder Woman, and all these people come from Hollywood that are all like Black Lightning. And it's just a very big conference, and I happen to be honored to be a speaker on a panel this year. And I sat next to a woman who owned a publishing company, and one of her friends owned one that did fiction. And fast forward to today, by the end of the year, the series will be released again. And it's just one of those things where when she told me to go back to my roots, I have to go back to where I started to get where I'm going. And we all know I'm a good storyteller, right? But I needed to complete what I started. You know what I'm saying? I complete what I started to be able to move on.
Right.
So that's what I have. My biggest project happening. I am filming 2 films this weekend, one of which will be released on Facebook Watch on August 1st. I have a pretty major film I'm filming in September, which will be my forerunner for festival season 2020. I currently have a film that's in the film festival circuit that's based on a true story right now. Yeah. I mean, I can keep going, but that's really where I am right now.
Yeah.
Projects and what I'm doing.
So you got your hands full.
Oh.
That's what they say, busy is always good. So yeah, I definitely get the sense you got a lot of things in the work, and that's really great. I'm excited. Definitely. I gotta make sure I stay up to date on that stuff, and definitely check out your some of your work. So because you're doing a lot of great cool things, and I'm all for supporting dope people.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yeah, so and it's like if you're a dope person, I'm not going to have any problem supporting whatever it is that you do. So if you could, 'cause I know you got some works out now, if you could share with the listeners what you got out there that they might want to check out, and also some things for them to be on the lookout for, as well as your social media and things related to that, so that they can follow you and keep tabs on everything that you got going on.
Let's prepare because I have a lot, right?
Get
So,
your notepads ready.
right, so let's start with my social media. My YouTube page, which my YouTube has all of my retired films. So these are films that used to be in film festivals, or things that I did little things with that I now allow just for the public to see. So if you want to see stuff for free, YouTube is it. My just type in B. Danielle Watkins. My YouTube page will come up. I have films on there, a couple of mini documentaries. All of that is there. My Facebook fan page as well is B. Danielle Watkins. My IMDb, but like, do people like go on IMDb? Never mind, erase that. Don't worry about that. Like
Oh, you
my
official if you on IMDb. So.
I am, but people don't like look for that, right? People don't go. People ain't
Oh,
on
only
IMDb.
hey, hey, when it come to IMDb, if you know, you know.
Like, I'm on there. Check me out. My my Twitter and my Instagram. If you type in B Danielle Watkins, I will come up, but that's not my handle. My handle is actually the title of my first film, which is Black Butterfly, and it's spelled BLACBUTTERFLII. Those are my handles on Instagram and Twitter, and they always have been, even before I created the film. Well, actually, no, because I didn't have Instagram until after, but nevertheless. Those are my names there. I have a website. It's just www.bdaniellewatkins.com. Right now, it's kind of out of date because I do so much, and it's like hard to keep my webmaster updated. So she's getting ready to get this crazy long email that has like a million updates, but it has enough on there. As far as works that you can see, if you have Amazon Prime or if you have Amazon period, my documentary Parallel is on Amazon. And that is the documentary that I mentioned earlier about me being the first African American filmmaker in the first all lesbian film festival in the country. And at the same time, I was staying in the Hotel Metropolitan, which is the current Black History Museum of Paducah. But when it was created because Paducah wouldn't allow Black performers to stay in the hotels when they came through on the Chitlin circuit. So this woman created this house so that these people could come perform and have some place to stay. And I actually like stay in a room that Ike and Tina Turner slept in. That place is freaking amazing, and you see a lot about it in the documentary because I talk about the parallels about being black and gay, being celebrated and shunned at the same time. Um, my series 3030 that I mentioned, season two is out, season one is out. We are a Reverie original series, and Reverie is an app, it's a website, it's a channel. Reverie is Netflix for LGBTQ. That's the reality. That's what we are. It's spelled Revry. We're on there. I know season one you can watch for free. I believe you need a subscription to watch the entire second season, but it's all out right now. Other than that, I'm looking around like at the other films I got out. A lot of them you can see now on YouTube. If you see something on my website or that you want to see that you can't get to, just send me a message and I'll get it to you. So, other than that, that's me. That's everything.
Great, great, great. Well, you guys heard her. Definitely. Well, this is recorded, so you guys can rewind and you know, get all that again. Definitely go check her out. She's got some dope stuff. Again, you guys heard her on the SANE Show. She's a dope individual. So I don't expect anything less of her work. So go check her out and go follow her on social media. And stay up to date with everything that she's got going on. I appreciate you coming on to the SANE Show, knowing your schedule. Appreciate you taking time out to, again, come on the SANE Show to have a conversation, and really enjoyed having you on and kicking off the SANE Show after a few weeks of of hiatus. So again, so again, really appreciate it. Again, this is the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything, with our special guest, B. Danielle Watkins, author, screenwriter, and filmmaker. Again, guys, go check her out and go check out her work. Be sure to follow her and the SANE Show on social media. And with that being said, again, this is the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything, episode 32. And until next time.